Hello, my name is Anna Julia Cooper. I am often called the mother of Black feminism and did many things to advance education. I was a writer, teacher, and advocate who was passionate about education for African Americans. I was born on August 10th, 1858, to Hannah Stanley Haywood. I am not sure who my father is because my mother refused to do a paternity test, but it was either our slave owner, George Washington Haywood, or his brother, Fabius Haywood. I was born into slavery with my mother. I have two older brothers, Andrew and Rufus. Andrew fought in the Spanish American War, and Rufus became a member of a musical group called Stanley's Band. However, I may have more siblings. When I turned 9 years old, I received a scholarship to St. Augustine's Normal School and Collegiate Institute. This was 2 years after the Civil War had ended. The goal of this institution was to educate former slaves. My favorite subjects quickly became mathematics and science, but I also went to other classes. I attended Latin, French, Greek, and English literature courses. In my school, girls were discouraged from going to higher level courses because they had a specific coursework called Ladies' Course, but through my hard work and academic ability, I fought to advance. This was the first of many times I would have to fight for education, mine and others. Although I did not know it at the time, my future husband was also attending St. Augustine's, training to become a ministry member. My scholarship helped me to pay for my schooling, but I also tutored young children to earn some extra money. And eventually, after graduating, I remained there as an instructor. In my years at this institution, I taught history, English, and vocal and instrumental music. I was married to George A.C. Cooper in 1877. He was an older teacher of theology at St. Augustine's. I terminated my teaching career in exchange for my marriage, but he passed away 2 years later in 1879. After my husband's death, I was able to continue teaching and mentoring at St. Augustine's. Had I stayed married, I would have been forced to stay at home and be a housewife for the remainder of my lifetime. After teaching at St. Augustine's, I began attending Oberlin College, taking courses intended for men. During my time here, I often took 4 courses instead of the 3 recommended by the university. I was also admitted as a sophomore to the university because of my high academic qualifications. I received my bachelor's degree in 1884. I then taught at Wilberforce College, St. Augustine's again, and then circled back to Oberlin College to receive an MA in mathematics. I made my first trip to Europe to participate in the Pan-African Conference. This was an event designed to be a peacemaker for decolonization in Africa and the West Indies. We wanted to end colonial rule and end racial discrimination. We also demanded equal human rights and equality of economic opportunity. This was all organized by a fellow classmate and peer, Ida Gibbs Hunt. After participating in the Congress in London, I attended the World Exposition in Paris, France. Then I went to Germany to see the Passion Play. Upon my return, I moved to Washington, D.C. One of the first things I did there was create the Colored Women's League with my colleagues, Helen Apple Cook, Ida B. Bailey, Charlotte Forden Grimke, Mary Jane Peterson, Mary Church Terrell, and Evelyn Shaw. Our main goals were to promote unity, social progress, and the best interests of the African American community. We elected Helen Cook to be the president. I also began teaching Latin at M Street High School, and later became the principal. During this time, I also wrote my novel, A Voice from the South, by a Black woman of the South. This became widely known as the first articulations of Black feminism. The central thesis I wanted to include in this book was that when Black women advance educationally, morally, and spiritually, it advances the general standing of the whole African American community. I also mentioned that women bring elegance into education and we need that positivity for advancement. In addition to this, I delivered many speeches to advance civil rights and women's rights. I became involved in a controversy because I advocated for a model of classical education by W.E.B. Du Bois rather than Booker T. Washington's vocational program. Both were my colleagues and friends. The Washington, D.C. School Board disagreed, with my educational approach for Black students to prepare for college. I left the school because of this. In 1893, I delivered a paper at the World's Congress of Representative Women called The Intellectual Progress of the Colored Women of the United States Since the Emancipation Proclamation. I was also invited to attend the first Pan-African Conference in 1900. I delivered a paper called The Negro Problem in America. I contributed to many different conferences in my lifetime by delivering speeches and papers. I was an incredibly eloquent speaker, and I always made sure my prose was perfect. In 1914, I started my doctorate degree at Columbia. However, I had to put my life on hold for a while when my sister-in-law died, leaving her 5 children with no one to care for them. I took them in and raised them. Doing this came at a cost. I was accused of having a sexual affair with my new young adult foster son. Almost everyone thought the charges were laughable, and many prominent people came forward to testify on my morals. Regardless, the rumors still remained on the front pages of every local paper for months. After this, I transferred to Paris, France, and finished my doctorate degree at the University of Paris-Sorbonne. This is my degree. This is University of Paris, PhD, 1924. Anna Julia Haywood. It took me over a decade to research and put together my dissertation. My dissertation was in the French language on attitudes towards slavery after the Haitian Rebellion. I was the 4th Black woman in American history to earn a doctorate degree. It took years and years of hard work, determination, and perseverance, and many times of persuading people to let me continue onward in my education. I was a pioneer for other Black women to follow me. Following my doctorate degree, I worked for 20 years as the president at Frelinghuysen University. This school provided classes for students lacking access to higher education. I only left the university 10 years before I passed away. I even moved the university to my own home when the university found serving its mortgage prohibitive. I believed in education for all so deeply. Some of my lasting legacies include acknowledging that children's performance at school is impacted by their home lives. I also gave students with special needs accommodations, which was progressive at the time. After finally retiring, I did not give up on my advocacy for fair education. I remained actively an activist on racial and educational matters until the day I died. On February 27, 1964, I died in Washington, D.C., at the age of 105 from a heart attack. My memorial was held in a chapel on the campus of St. Augustine's, where I began my education journey. I was buried alongside my husband in Raleigh, North Carolina, after 85 years of being apart because he died so young. Some of my greatest honors are being quoted in the United States passport, having United States Postal Service stamp, and many schools named after me. My United States passport quote says, "The cause of freedom is not the cause of a race or a sect, a party or a class. It is the cause of humankind, the very birthright of humanity." There is also an Anna Julia Cooper Center on Gender, Race, and Politics at Wake Forest University. And to end, one of my favorite things I have said is, "A nation's greatness is not dependent upon the things it makes and uses. Things without thoughts are mere vulgarities. America can boast her expansive territory, her gilded domes, her paving stones of silver dollars, but the question of deepest moment in this nation today is its men and women, the elevation at which it receives its vision into the firmament of eternal truth." Thank you for watching, and I hope you all don't take education for granted and that you all continue to advance education.